When I was doing the prep work for this episode, I realized that I made a mistake last off-season, and what that mistake was is that I accidentally traded 2 of our picks in a row, which we know is not allowed. I'm surprised that it was allowed in the game because the Stepien rule is enabled unless I accidentally disabled it. We'll check that now. I know I make a couple of manual trades and I might have needed to disable it. And for some of my manual trades that I do between other teams, looks like it was on. It still allowed us to trade anyway. I forgot to turn this back off after the trade deadline, but luckily we're early enough in the season that I think it probably won't have played too big a role. But I do like to turn it up right before the trade deadline in seasons. Anyway, we need to amend this just for the sake of realism, and we traded. So there's 2 ways to amend this. To make the 2029 first, we traded into the 2030 first instead, or the 2028 first that we traded to make it the 2027 instead. And while I can't really guarantee that the team that took our 2029 first would have accepted the trade had it been the 2030 first, I can pretty much guarantee that the team that took our 2028 one will accept our 2027 one instead. And now I need to actually disable the thing so I can do this. So we'll disable Stepien really quickly and make this trade and then turn it back on. And the team that has our 2028 first is, of course, the Thunder. So that was part of the deal involving Jaden Hardy. And so they're going to get our first 1 year earlier. What do you mean you're not interested in our trade? How is our first 2 years from now not objectively better than our first next year? Who has our 2030 first? 2029 first. Let's go to San Antonio and see if they'll take our 2030 instead of our 2029. That's ridiculous. If the Spurs won't do this, then I'm manually making the Thunder take our 2027 first because it's objectively a better pick, and they would take it. Yeah, no. As I suspected, the Spurs are actually making sense here, so I have to go ahead, be the Thunder for a second, because for some reason they don't like getting their asset a year in advance when the team will objectively be worse. What is up with this game, man? I mean, is it because they have more? They don't even have more picks really in 2027 right now. This would make it so they do have more picks in 2027, but trade those picks then. Now all of a sudden, look at this. Now they're saying 2028 is worse than 2027. What is up with this game sometimes, man? There you go. We fixed the error. It took longer than it should have. I don't know why the Thunder were rejecting it originally, but now we do not have a first round pick next year. In fact, we don't have any pick as it currently stands. That's something that we might need to fix between now and that 2027 offseason. But it makes this draft even more important with our pick and the Clippers pick. And speaking of that Clippers pick, they have both of their guys are injured right now for the next 2 to 4 weeks. I think they've started with like 4-9 or something. Paying attention to the standings is something that I'm going to be doing quite frequently throughout this season, with us having potentially 2 high picks. Yeah, they're 4-9. Of course, we're 5-8. Neither of us have been as bad as like the Suns, but we're kind of in play for the group of teams currently right behind that. And so, yeah, we'll be checking back in on this, see how the Clippers are doing very frequently, as well as our own, because the 2026 draft just got a lot more important for us. And speaking of that draft, here is the first initial look at the class. Now, normally I would do this later in the season with clips. Still absolutely going to do that. I like to do that once I've scouted these guys a little bit better and have a better idea of who they are. But I just wanted to give a quick preview of at least position-wise, kind of what it's looking like at the top of this class. And this class has two great point guards, has a ton of point guards kind of in the top 10 overall, but I think there's two that look really, really good. Damian Harvey is a 6'8" point guard who is a 3-level scorer. He can play make, he can defend on the perimeter, A+ athlete. Don't know his potential yet. Malachi Pope is a 6'6" point guard, 220 pounds to Harvey's 230. So 2 point guards with excellent size. He can also score at all 3 levels. He's a little bit better of a defender and a playmaker, but not quite as good of a scorer. Also, both these guys great at IQs and great athletes. Barry Carroll, he's a little bit shorter than these guys, but somehow has the longest wingspan. He's also a lot older. Not as good of a 3-point scorer, but he can score inside the arc. Again, good perimeter defense and playmaking. These are the top 3 prospects in the class, all point guards, and that's the position I'm very interested in. All excellent athletes, all can both score, play make, and defend. And so I'm really, really excited for the top of this point guard class. Jose Hernandez, I'd say, is definitely lower than these guys. Like, these guys are top 4 consensus on pretty much every board, whereas you start to get past that a little bit here with this 4th point guard, but I still think he's good. Only 6 foot, but again, 3-level scorer, athlete, perimeter defense, playmaking, like all the things that I care about a point guard, all 4 of these guys can bring to the table. These 2 guys are just a little bit shorter, but at least Carroll has the insane wingspan, and man, these 2 at the top, I'm very, very excited about. Francis Mullins is probably the best non-point guard in this class. Excellent rebounder, really good defender, actually has some playmaking for a center. Can score inside the arc as well. Not even a terrible 3-point shooter. Good IQ, just not the insane athlete, but 7-footer, 21 years old. Kelvin Fletcher is kind of a 3-and-D guy with his scoring, his perimeter defense. Another guy with high IQ and high physicals. Pretty much everybody except for Jose Hernandez is really, really good IQ. Like, Hernandez isn't even bad. But you get to the bad IQ here, starting with Ernest Augustine at power forward. He's 6'8", 240, 20 years old. He's a little bit more of an athlete who's solid all around, not of course in playmaking and perimeter defense, but can kind of do a little bit of everything else. But gonna maybe project to be a little bit more of a project. All these guys are like C or higher potential too. None of these guys are like super high, in terms of, long-term projects. A lot of these guys project to be able to come in and help your team right away. And then we got a couple more point guards here that are more towards the back half of the top 10. Brandon Law is a point guard only because he's 6'1". He really plays like a shooting guard in terms of he's not an excellent playmaker, and he's an awesome shooter. So more of kind of your off-ball point guard if you have somebody that's a high volume on-ball guy, aka Sidney Lowry. So I think he's going to be in the mix. Harold Hart, definitely the most long-term project guy here. He still has C overall, but he can play make a bit, and he's an excellent athlete. But this is the skill set I like the least out of the top 10 guys. And then another center here in Bobby Hickman, really good inside the arc scorer, and just absolute elite defensive player on the inside with A+ inside defense and rebounding. Other than Harold Hart, who, I haven't ranked this in order of how I like them quite yet. I just kind of found the guys that are the most consensus top 10 in the class, but Harold Hart is kind of the only guy that I don't really, really like in this top 10. And so we're projected to probably have 2 top 10 picks. And in a draft that we really need to improve, since we won't have our pick the next year, I think there's a very, very high likelihood that we get 2 awesome players in this next draft. Now, I think I found a way to finesse getting an extra mentor on the roster, and that is exactly what we've done here. I'm gonna show you this trade we just made with the Warriors. We sent Cedric Thorpe and a second round pick for Draymond Green. And as you can see, our increased trade sliders haven't done much in the NBA so far this season, as nobody's made a trade except for our correction and then this actual trade that we made. Now, according to the rules of this mentorship in our draft only franchise, rules I made up, I should say, are that we need 13 draft only eligible players on the roster, which means we got them through the expansion draft, NBA draft, or UDFA. And then after that, I can fill out the roster with some mentor players. And with this trade, that puts us only at 12 draft only players. But if I go into free agency and I sign now kind of a two-way center on a two-way contract, and I think we'd have to go down a little bit here. That just gives us the opportunity, somebody like Gregor Samuels. You can only offer a two-way contract. That's all I want to offer here. He would be somebody, of course, we're signing out of UDFA, and he accepts. And now we have 16 players on the roster, which of course you can only accomplish with two-way contracts, but that just gives us one more mentor on the team. So now we can go ahead and edit player mentorship. That one's going to stay. I think we're going to have Draymond Green mentor here. What badges should we mentor him with? I think Immovable Enforcer is a good one. Bulldozer, probably another to help his offense. And then, I don't know here. I'm thinking something else to help his defense. Maybe, I think Challenger would be good. Anchor would be good. We're going to go with Anchor, I think. Maybe. I might change this, but for now, this is what we're going to set it as. And that allows us to use, of course, we have Duncan Robinson, Christian Davidson still. That allows us to get the other member of the Stevens brothers mentorship as well with Tristan Thompson. Get him the 2 badges he doesn't have, and then we'll go make sure he gets that silver box out beast. And there you have it. Getting ourselves a 4th mentor on the roster with a little bit of finesse. And there you have it. Taking a look at the roster now, we still have, if you're counting only draft only players, we have Wilson, Fisher, and Sam Hudson at point guard. Lowry, Moody, and Davidson make up our 5 required guards. Williamson, Baldwin, and Robinson for small forward, with Stevens and Johnson for our 5 required forwards. And then Stevens, Stewart, and Samuels for our 3 required centers. And so using these 2-way contracts, I think is going to be a good way to get us additional mentors, especially because this is probably the last year we have Duncan Robinson, who's been able to fill kind of both roles as being one of our draft only players and a mentor. So it's going to be even harder after his contract expires, and he probably doesn't want to re-sign with us. We'll see. I don't even know if I want to re-sign him after this year. But he's been one of really the only player that's been able to fill both slots for us. And so we'll have one less mentor. So it's going to be important for us to find clever ways to get our mentors. 2-way contracts is going to be the way to do it. And the reason I made this trade is I was just kind of looking on the trade finder because Cedric Thorpe was -3 overall. He was not happy the fact that Stewart was playing over him and he wasn't getting any playing time. And the Warriors offered me Draymond Green, and I thought, wow, that'd be a sick mentor to have. But too bad we can't do it until I figured out a way that we actually could. So very happy with that trade. Of course, not very happy that we don't have our 1st round pick next year, but just had to do that for the sake of a realism. Last thing to do here before we hop into some gameplay is go through a couple weeks worth of box scores. We have won 3 out of our last 4 games here, and taking a look at those box scores, starting here with a win against the Cavaliers, led by Sidney Lowry, 27 points on 17 shots. Stevens also put in a good game, 23 points on 17 shots, 8 rebounds. Zaire struggled a bit. Moody was only 1 for 4, but overall good team performance. We ended up picking up a win against the Miami Heat next. Sidney Lowry led us once again. Didn't shoot very well, but was really all over the box score, including turnovers. The Stevens brothers combined for 30 and 15 in the front court. Both shot it quite well. Baldwin, Stewart, and Johnson also all got double digits. And then this is the box score that I'm really excited to show you. A win here against the Chicago Bulls. I watched this game off camera, and my goodness, Sidney Lowry, 64 points, both a franchise record and a career high. Hit 27 of 40 shots in this game. And as you can see, I guess we've simulated a couple of days, so it's no longer on the social media. Where do you go for team records? Probably here, right? No, that's not it. League history, here we go. Team record, 64 points. It was the most in franchise history by a whopping 27 points. 37 was the previous high. Lowry had done it twice. Jaden Hardy did it back when our franchise was brand new. But as you can see, 4 of the top 5 point performances in franchise history are early season. Sidney Lowry, year 2 Sidney Lowry, has become a different animal. But of course, led us to victory here. Stevens with a double-double. The other Stevens brother, 13, 6, and 7. He tends to do quite well against the Bulls here this year. Probably because he's mad he didn't go first overall. But there you have it. Now, the game I wanted to play in this little slate of the schedule was the Sixers. They have won the championship twice. And I wanted to see how we could stack up. You know, I obviously don't think we're nearly that good. Yeah, I just wanted to see how far away we were. Unfortunately, Joel Embiid is injured, and so we won't get the best of them. Which is, I guess, good for our chances of winning, but bad for what I really wanted to watch this game for was the kind of stacking us up against the best in the league. But I still think, you know, we're teams with very similar records. And let's see if we can get a win on the road against a very hostile environment in Philadelphia. And since the pre-gameplay portion was so long in this episode, we'll be focusing on only the makes for this Philly game. As we see, Wilson Fisher got us going, and Sidney Lowry follows up with the alley-oop layup. This time, Lowry gets the ball behind the arc, wide open, all the space in the world, and he hits the shot top of the key. Fisher running a bit of pick and roll with Lowry as the roll man. Hits another shot, and the first 10 points of this ball game are all via Nashville. James Harden, though, would look to change that quickly with a 3 top of the arc, putting Philly on the board. Lowry going inside and hitting the shot over Cedi Osman. Maxey, nice little step back shot, missed it, but Christian Board crashes the glass. The glass, not the glash. I don't know what a glash is. This time, Wood again on the interior. Finishes over AC Stevens. Dish inside to Stevens, and he gets that bucket right back from Wood. Andre, top of the key, needs to find somewhere to go. Baldwin with the shot clock winding down. Hits the 3. He's becoming a really good shooter here in Season 3 of our series. One Stevens to another, and we've got an and one for AC. He actually does convert it as well. 20-7 early for Nashville. Finding good shots offensively, and here as Lowry's getting doubled, he finds Patrick Baldwin for the dunk. Finding good baskets consistently, playing good defense, and we're building the early lead. Stevens is going to foul Christian Wood on the inside shot. Wood tries to complete the three-point play, can't quite do it though. In transition, Nashville finds Lowry in the corner, and if you give Lowry a corner shot that's clean, dude is gonna hit it. Philly's starting to double Lowry here early. We've seen that help us out with a nice clean look a couple of times here in the first. Melton, it's his first long ball of the day. Now going for 2 in a row. But this one is a no-go. Nashville the other way in transition. Baldwin pulls up for the midi. Again, becoming a really good shooter for us. And shooting is something that this team really needs. Moody. Speaking of shooters, he hits that one off the dribble. These two expansion picks, Moody and Baldwin, have been, sticking with the team for the longest because of their ability to shoot. Davidson off a screen, and he's getting involved behind the arc. 36 first quarter points. Wood trying to answer with a 3 of his own, and he hits it. Now, Jalen Johnson's turn to try one, and if he's hitting threes, it's a good time to be shooting because he has been terrible this year. Maxey scoots by Davidson to the cup. Got one more chance to give us a 20-point first quarter lead. Baldwin just quickly turns around on Maxey, hits the shot, and it's 41-21. A 20-point difference after one in favor of our squad, as Harden blows by Davidson to start the second. Zaire turns around, shoots, and hits. Harden going inside on Davidson. Took him about 10 seconds to find the shot he wanted, but he eventually did, and he converted. Lowry bounce pass inside to Jalen Johnson on the pick and roll. Works perfectly for us. Step back for Harden. Missed the shot, but Philly gets a second try, and they make it count. Pick and roll again with Sidney Lowry. You gotta respect him from the mid-range. D'Anthony just gave him way too much space there. Harden, again, just taking his time and finding the shots that he likes. Very typical of Harden. It's the Harden we've known now for many years. Andre Stevens, haven't heard his name called much today after an excellent episode last time. It's just been the 3 party from his teammates today. Not necessarily he's having a bad game. It's just everyone else is shooting and hitting their shots. Maxey, step back from the free throw line. Hits it over Lowry. And Lowry trying to get it from deep. It's no good. AC Steven goes down hard on the floor. He's injured. Sixers cut it to 12. Harden with it again, but Wilson Fisher's a bit better of a defender than we've had on him for most of this game, and he gets the transition bucket. Maxey out to Gary Trent Jr., who hits the shot. Maxey top of the key, defended by Lowry, just a little bit too quick, gets to the cup. Past him, 10 first half points now for Tyrese. And it's a single-digit ball game. Remember, we had a 20-point lead after one here. But Moody does a nice job getting us back into that double-digit lead territory. Wide open, Keita Bates-Dia hits the 3. Next thing you know, it's only a 4-point ball game. What is going on with this offense, man? We had 41 points after one. We're still in the 50s. We've only scored 15 points just this next quarter after scoring 41. It's hard to, see just the struggles when we're only focusing on the makes, of course, but when you see a bunch of Philadelphia shots going up in a row, you know something's going wrong on the other end. And just the threes stopped falling, started getting some turnovers, and with that Harden three, Philadelphia makes up 19 of those 20 points they were down in the second quarter, man. Stevens wide open from three, and that one is good. Needed to start getting our outside shot going again. It was incredible for us in the first, and nothing was falling in the second, and now Andre Stevens starting to heat up to start the third quarter. Osman finds Bates Diop, top of the arc. His three falls. Remains just a 1-point game. Lowry on the cut. Slams it in the face of Christian Wood. To the cup. Maxey hits it over Lowry. It's been a tough matchup for Sidney Lowry. Maxey's been doing a good job scoring. Moody, a little bit deep on the three, but it doesn't matter. He splashes it home. Harden pounded it on the floor, top of the key. Dishes to Wood, who takes his time and hits the shot over Andre Stevens. Moody. He has been excellent today when given just a little bit of space. Having a great game here against Philly. Off the miss. We're going in transition. Lowry, he makes some really bad transition decisions. I'll just say that. He never takes threes and he never takes layups. The dude's always shooting mid-rangers in transition. Wish he wouldn't, but he shoots a good enough percentage that it's not like a major problem. As Andre Stevens, with his back to the basket, puts two more on the board. That's a nice pick and roll from Philly, resulting in a Christian Wood dunk. They're not going away, but our offense certainly has started to pick things back up, as now we're hitting post turnaround shots with Stevens. Moody, been hitting the threes, been hitting the layups. Off the catch, off the dribble, he's just been money all day long. Off the Fisher miss, Philly's pushing. Nobody guarded DeAnthony Melton, and he is hitting the shot. Back down to 7. Just after we rebuilt our double-digit lead. Wood hitting the 3, and Philly's right back to within 4. Moody getting doubled, and I honestly can't blame him. He's been money, but it leads to the Fisher shot, and this time he's getting the steal off Harden. Pushing it. Finding Andre Stevens, who hit the shot in traffic. 84-76 the score. Philly once again sending the Moody double. Zaire Williams decides to enter his name into the long list of players who have hit a 3 for us today. Nice pass up ahead by Christian Davidson, finding Moses Moody inside. In transition. Davidson just going to pull it up and hit the shot. 12-point game. Zaire, nobody guarding him, hits the 3 again. And is 15 now. 95-80. Spinning, Harden finds his man inside, and the layup is good. Lowry starting to get doubled, finds Jalen Johnson. Should have dunked that one home. I mean, that's like your one skill set, Jalen, but it's fine. He made the shot. Not going to be mad about a layup. Davidson has space. Hits another 3. He has been good from deep today. Philly response. Zaire. Deep. Christian Davidson 3, and he hit it again. Now, Davidson's starting to kind of pull his own Moses Moody and start to be the role player that's playing well above his role. Shannon Stewart dunks it inside, and we're up 18 here in the fourth. Davidson been feeling himself, and he continues to shine. Lowry in transition. This time he actually went to the basket. And he's going to get the and one. Our lead burgeons up to 20. Johnson with a three-point shot opportunity. He missed that one, but Andre Stevens cleans up the boards. Lowry catch and shoot. Hits it. And this team, with the exception of one quarter, was hitting all night long. Moses Moody and Christian Davidson in particular both had stretches where they were just dominating this game. For Philly, there were 3 players with 20 plus. Maxey led them with 31. Lowry, 26 and 10 assists. He'll rack up the assists when people are hitting their shots, but 24 and 6 from Moody on 16 shots, 4 of 8 from 3. 16-6-3 with 4 steals for Stevens. You know, not the big-time game he had last time, but still very productive. And then Christian Davidson had that hot streak. Ended up 5 of 7 from 3 today. Pretty much everybody was good. Wilson Fisher didn't shoot well, but that's not really his role on this team, so I don't mind it. And there you have it. Just an awesome offensive day in the office for us. 125 points in the end. Just as we were about to finish off the simulation, we have one more game to go. Sidney Lowry, torn left tricep, 1 to 2 months. Big injury for us. And I'm going to have to set this rotation manually. Where do we go with Sidney Lowry down? He's obviously the driving force behind what we do. And our improvement this season. He's been excellent, but we'll be without him for at least the next month, which is quite unfortunate, despite the fact that even injured, he's still our best player. So, what do we do here? What's the move? Do we go to just a 9-man rotation is what I'm thinking here. I think Patrick Baldwin slots in to the starting lineup. That's 36 minutes we need to replace. Baldwin's going to be getting a lot of them. In fact, I think both Baldwin and Moody are going to get 32 points a game, 32 minutes a game, excuse me. If they get 32 points per game, all credit to them. And then I think Robinson's going to get 16 minutes a game. We won't go down to that 9-man rotation. We'll just play this how it is now. And this is going to be our lineup unless somebody else gets injured for the next month or so. Luckily, we avoided a bullet with AC Stevens' injury being just something that he was only out for 1 game. So it didn't affect our season too much. But then we got an even worse injury here with our best player. But that's unfortunate. We got only 1 more game to simulate. I wanted to simulate to December 21st. We would win our first game without Sidney Lowry. Let's go through the box scores of our wins. Since this Philly game, we won our very next game against the Heat. Lowry put up 32 in that game. Andre Stevens put up 27-5 with 3 blocks. Moody played well again. Davidson had a pretty solid game. Johnson and Stewart also had double-digit points, while Fisher had 7 rebounds, 11 assists. You know, not much of a scorer, but he does really good at the other things for this team. And we let Draymond Green play 1 game, and he was all over the box score like he usually is. This is the 1 game that AC Stevens missed. And then we wouldn't win again until December 23rd, but we would absolutely smoke the Kings in this game. 3 players scoring 20 plus. Andre Stevens led the way with Lowry and Baldwin right behind him. 21, 6, and 8 for Lowry, but 5 turnovers. 22, 5, and 2 for Stevens. Double-double for AC Stevens with 16 and 12. And the only other player was Shannon Stewart with 12 and 9. Not the best day for Christian Davidson, 0 for 4 from the field. And then this last game, the last one that we would win here in this portion, Baldwin led us here. 8 of 15 from the field, 24 points. Moody, 6 of 14. Zaire, 15 points. AC Stevens with poured in 13. Christian Davidson with 10. Stevens, not the best. He's going to have to absolutely step it up for us. With Lowry gone, he's kind of our go-to option. He had tied for the second most shots in this game. I expect him to have, around that, the most or second most shots in most of these games, and hopefully he can just do better than he did in this game. But regardless, we picked up the win. We are 12-19 now through 31 games. Let's get an updated look at the NBA standings. How did the Clippers do here in this little stretch? Not great. They are 10-19, so we currently have tied for the second pick in the drafts, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'd have picks 2 or 3 and 8, of course. And by picks, I mean lottery odds, because you never know what's going to happen in the lottery. So that's where we're at here as we end this episode. December 21st, probably going to start seeing some more teams trade, as this is the day that guys who were signed in the offseason can now be traded. So maybe we'll see some shifting here in the league. But so far, already better than last year, something I thought we would be, but I'm glad to see us putting last season behind us. But we've got a tough month ahead without our star, Sydney Lowry. That's all I've got for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back soon with another, and I'll see you then.